world for more than 75 years. It is increasingly an indispensable centre for relations between states. Indeed, if considerable progress has been made vis-à-vis the initial aspirations of international peace and security and for justice and prosperity for all, it is thanks to the collective commitment undertaken and a permanent system of dialogue and consultation that state actors have broadly engaged in order to find negotiated solutions to resolve their differences. Nonetheless, much remains to be done to achieve this ideal world that we all so deeply long for. To this end, today, more than ever, we need to bolster our multilateral system and make it more robust and more effective. Loyal to our historic traditions, the Republic of Haiti would like to reiterate its commitment and its desire to continue to work alongside member states of the international community to build a fairer and more equitable world order. Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen ambassadors, distinguished delegates. A little more than 2 months ago, I took up my post as Prime Minister in the absence of President Moïse, who honoured me by appointing me to the post just a few days before his horrific assassination. As soon as I became head of government, my main concern was to do everything in my power to ensure that as soon as possible my country's democratic institutions functioned again normally. This was the desire of President Moïse. It is the goal which has guided me to date and will continue to guide my action. Some of you perhaps are not aware of this, but I have been called to govern whilst practically none of our democratic institutions exist anymore or are totally dysfunctional. Given such a situation and seeking to resolve the major political challenges that face my country, in particular intolerable insecurity, a dysfunctioning legislative branch, and the weakness of the judicial system, given all this, I had to swiftly form a government in order to take government's matters into hand. But it's clear that only through dialogue with political parties and civil society stakeholders, only through this can a sufficient consensus be achieved in order to ensure socio-political stability. With this in mind, since I became head of government, I have stepped up meetings and discussions with a very varied array of national stakeholders in order to create a peaceful socio-economic climate. This is crucial in terms of organising a credible, transparent and inclusive general election as soon as possible. It is my belief that it's crucial to ensure that institutions function normally again by handing leadership of the country to elected officials who enjoy the trust of the population. Just a few days ago, the official journal published the political agreement for a peaceful and effective government during the transition period. I negotiated and signed this with the major stakeholders of our political class, as well as numerous civil society organisations of all stripes. This agreement plans for the creation of a security environment that can foster broad participation of citizens in the forthcoming elections. It sets up a mechanism whereby the government has to be transparent and accountable. All these sectors of national life will have their say in drafting a constitution that will be adopted after a widespread consultation process. This is an important stage in the process of re-establishing the rule of law and democratic institutions. Despite this broad participation, we remain open to continue discussions in order to achieve consensus. We want to ensure that other fellow countrymen are on board with this shared project, which seeks to give our country a new start. I have started discussions with the signatories to the agreement as to its implementation, and I will continue these discussions over the next few days. I have opted for the quickest path towards free, transparent, inclusive, and non-partisan elections. Some want a longer transition period, but along with many others, I believe that that is not the right option. I have not given up hope of convincing those who are still reluctant to join the signatories of this agreement, so that we can move forward together, seeking peace and ongoing dialogue towards lasting solutions facing our country. Mr. President, over and above the political crisis that I have just briefly described, there's also the impact of repeated natural disasters. Haiti is ranked one of the most vulnerable countries to natural disasters. There was a series of deadly, devastating disasters, including the 2010 earthquake and Hurricane Matthew of 2016 that hit the country hard. They were followed by a powerful 7.2 scale earthquake which wrought havoc on the entire southern peninsula of the Republic of Haiti on the 14th of August this year. According to the available official figures, we have seen at least 2,207 deaths, 344 people are still missing, and more than 12,268 people have been injured. Thousands of houses have either been destroyed or damaged, as well as hospitals, schools, churches, bridges, and roads. I'd like to take this opportunity to commend once again the spontaneous outpouring of solidarity from the international community that swiftly mobilized with our authorities to provide assistance and aid to the victims. We greatly appreciated the visit of the United Nations Deputy Secretary General, Madam Amina Mohammed. She went to the areas affected just shortly after the disaster to assess properly the scale of the damage and to have a better understanding of the real needs of the people affected. I'm not going to quote all those countries and organizations that came and helped us in case I forget someone, but I wish to be clear that they all deserve our gratitude. I would like to urge the international community to remain collectively engaged alongside Haiti to help it to respond not only to its immediate humanitarian needs, but also to assist it in the reconstruction process upon which my government is working. Along with our technical and financial partners, I have started a post-disaster needs assessment, a PDNA. We should, over the next few weeks, receive an exhaustive needs assessment of our needs in order to undertake reconstruction. There's a need to build back better and in a more resilient way to better cope with climate hazards and natural disasters in general. Once again, we are banking upon your proactive assistance, both through existing mechanisms and also through new commitments. The focus on the reconstruction of the Southern Peninsula cannot and must not make us forget the fact that fighting poverty and creating wealth, these are some of the main priorities for my government. This is why we are going to continue to work on establishing a propitious environment for an economic recovery and for attracting both national and foreign investment. Our population is young. It needs decent jobs and better prospects for the future. Mr. President, today, more than ever, we need a more robust and effective multilateral system to enable member states of the organization to develop joint strategies to meet these major challenges. This should be part of a holistic vision of a better world for all by reaffirming our collective commitment to a stronger and constantly renewed multilateralism. I do not wish to conclude without inviting member states to consider the aspirations of the Republic of China, Taiwan, that want to and can play a non-negligible role in our organization's initiatives, seeking to preserve peace and international security and to promote cooperation and development between nations. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate that multilateralism has proven itself over more than 3/4 of a century as a